Welcome everybody to the Area 111 live stream. This is host RH coming at you again from the beautiful sunshine state of Florida. Okay, tonight I'm going live only on YouTube. I did share the link over at Truth Social, so please everyone, if you don't mind, that comes into the chat, please share the link so we can get more viewers. There's going to be a very important information I'm going to put out tonight. I'm seeing the same old operations for these covert, highly compartmentalized um, individuals, certain type of groups, trying to make it easier, in my opinion, to attempt to put the president in a kill box. Now, this basically goes all the way back to Kennedy. Okay, we know that John Hinckley Jr. did not basically go have the power to force the U.S. Secret Service at the time to put the president in the kill box and ignore basically almost every protocol known to the U.S. Secret Service to protect their protectees. So, anyways, I won't go into this I'll just go around the issue a little bit and not directly straightforward because these are my opinions and I don't like false witnessing. I don't care who the recipient is of false witnessing. I don't agree with it. And all it does is basically lower the credibility of individuals that go out there and put out disinformation. I mean, libel, slander, defamation, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So basically, this is troubling. Now, I'm going to give people a short history of how they've done this before. In my opinion, they set up Butler to put the president in the kill box. Now, I did notice before Butler that President Trump was basically exposed way too much. He was basically a target, and we know the history about that and what's going over in the Middle East area, and the threats from over there, the continued threats. It's not like they just started threatening, America, and their famous quote from their leaders, and the leaders saying yes, which involves death to America, right? The guy actually said it, yes, while they were chanting. That's not what you do as a world leader. They're depicting these people like they're some type of saints or something. And by the way, my supreme leader is God, not any man, woman, or child. So that's offensive in and of itself, at least to those of faith that believe in God. To take a title like that and go around and present yourself, as that type of person or whatever, there's a long history of this going all the way back to whenever they kidnapped Americans. I think there were 40 something Americans were kidnapped, and Carter tried to order a covert operation, basically with special forces. We lost, I think it was 7 men in that failed operation, and it was horrible. Operation Eagle Claw, I believe, was the name of the operation. But anyways, at least he did try to get those hostages rescued. At least he did try that. It was a sandstorm. It was kind of like, um, it wasn't good. You know what I mean? So, anyways, many of us that have served our country have been talking about the vulnerabilities that they placed the president in. And I'm going to give one example. Remember Benny Thompson? Remember the J6 Unselect Committee that basically destroyed government records. Why haven't they been held accountable for that? You know, that pretty much tells everybody everything you need to know. I don't care how much you hate President Trump or you love him. These people have to be held accountable for their crimes. It's just that simple, whether it has to deal with elections or whatever. They have to be held accountable. Our country's based and founded on law and order, not the contrived ordinances and stuff that they put out, men has put out in the past. Not one jot or one tittle, right? Will otherwise go away from the law until all is fulfilled. I've not come to destroy the law of the prophets. I come to fulfill. Remember that statement by the Son of Man or the Son of God, right? Remember that statement. That statement, when you read it directly from our scriptures, the Word of God, I don't have my Bible next to me, but it holds power. It holds power. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Who's the liar and the murderer from the very beginning? That's who these people have joined. It's kind of obvious. They set up their platform on it. Oh, that's just politics, RH. That's their foundation. They even had a delegation vote to basically say aye or nay to restore the name God and Jerusalem back into their platform. If you listen to the vote, the nays were louder than the yeas. I mean, this is all proven stuff. You can still go back and watch that video for yourself. Please watch it for yourself. God doesn't give favors to people that are rich or elite or whatever, or, poor or whatever the case may be, or whatever political so-called party you belong to or don't belong to. God doesn't favor people. When Judgment Day comes around, we're all going to be each individually judged. Each of us will be judged independently. And God knows exactly what's on our hearts. No, this young adult man travels all the way from North Carolina, right? From what I saw on the comments and online in one of these, I think it's Twitter or whatever, the guy's cousin, what's his name, Martin, basically said he left, I guess, his parents' house at 1 p.m. That was yesterday. And they said the last time they heard from him was at 7:51 p.m. That was last night. So a 21-year-old man leaves his parents' home, right? From my understanding, he has a job. So I don't know how many people. I was already on my own at 17. I joined the United States Air Force with my parents' signature. You know how many times I left wherever I was living and didn't come home for maybe a week, or that I didn't check in with my parents? You think I'm checking in on my parents at basic training every day? So it was common for me not to basically communicate with my parents or whoever for longer than a lot longer than a day at times. And we really didn't have the phone. We had pay phones back then. And I don't know how many of y'all remember, we basically had to feed it quarters. I remember calling back home in basic training. You had to get like a roll of quarters. It was really expensive to call long distance back then, especially with the amount of pay that I received back in the 70s while in basic training. But anyways, yes, good to see you, Kenny. Daniel, also good to see y'all. If y'all don't mind, please share the live stream tonight. As you may have heard at the beginning, I didn't do a live over to Rumble. I'm trying out a little bit different live stream tonight. But again, let's talk about the title. I'm going to get directly into this. I'm basically going to give you enough information that's basically without a doubt, this is what they're trying to do. Now, I remember I was talking about Benny Thompson. I think he chaired that unselect committee. Remember, they destroyed the evidence. They destroyed government records. That's against the law. How come they didn't hold Benny Thompson basically accountable? Are those that were destroying the tapes, whatever, the interviews, transcripts, whatever? How come they wasn't arrested? They don't have privilege. They don't have diplomatic immunity to go out there and break any freaking law they want to just because they're a congressman, a congresswoman, or in the Senate or whatever. Benny Thompson tried to defund President Trump's Secret Service protection. He actually wrote up a bill, a sponsor of the bill to remove President Trump's protection. You remember what happened at Butler? They pulled off the permanent team to the former president at the time, President Trump, and they moved him over to a facility like a hardened facility. I think it was a Coliseum or something like that. I can't remember what type of facility, to basically help protect Jill Biden. They set up the president in the kill box. They didn't put a Secret Service person on the roof of the American Glass Corporation building, American Glass Research Company building. They didn't put a person up there. They set the president up in the kill box with no bulletproof, glass or whatever, right? And even Melania Trump herself said, how come they didn't take my president off, my husband off the stage when they found out that guy was still basically around, and that Crooks was around, and they were basically talking about chatter, and he was up on that roof long enough where they could have whisked him away and took that guy out. That kid should have never been up there on that roof to begin with. I don't care what anybody says. I helped set up perimeter security. I helped guard perimeters. We actually had rovers going on the outside of the perimeter. And with all these threats going on now, again, this 21-year-old guy, he gets into the gate, sneaks into the gate. He breaches that security. Now, when we set up perimeter security, we had rovers on the outside of the perimeter. We had outside perimeter security. This is the 21st century, people. We're talking about drones and all kinds of things. There's TFRs, temporary restricted airspaces, so you can't fly in those type of things, whatever. There's all kinds of things involved now. It's a lot more dynamic than it was 20 or 30 years ago. And if this guy was able to basically breach that perimeter security and get in through that gate with his car, whatever, that Volkswagen, he can get into that gate, right? Could you imagine what the professionals could do? Remember the Beirut barracks where we lost all those Marines and Air Force too? I can't remember if there was Army people involved. Remember that? To me, the protection of the president is just not sufficient enough. It's not sufficient enough. If it was sufficient, that kid would have never got in. That 21-year-old young adult, would have never ever got inside Mar-a-Lago perimeter. And what gets me is, I love people in law enforcement, the first responders. I shouldn't even have to say that. Nobody's saying anything about, but every organization has bad apples, whether they're men, women, and sometimes we call kids. They're under the age of 18. So Benny Thompson Pools writes a bill to remove former President Donald Trump's security team off the BS about J6 insurrection, right? They used an operation that was like a fine-tooth military operation to basically try to overthrow the president and try to make sure he never was able to run again. Remember, some states took him off the ballot. Colorado. This is all history. This is all facts I'm talking here. Mingle with a few opinions. And if you've been a rover and you're out there outside the perimeter, securing deployment locations, whatever, you know exactly what I'm saying is the truth. Let's just say high security prisons, for example. They got concertina wire on top of concertina wire. They got electric fences. They won't even be able to get over. Okay, well, I could throw a blanket over. Well, I don't want you to try it. Don't try it. Don't try it at home, whatever. Don't try it. To scale a fence that's got, it's got electric fence. Don't try to scale it. It'd be kind of stupid for you to anyone try to climb the fence to begin with. So I don't know all the particulars and what actually happened. I get bits and pieces, and they're not going to tell everyone all the particulars. And I hear these people out there. There's 3 attempts on the president's life. Okay, so we got Ruth, Crooks, and Martin, I think is his last name. Tucker's his middle name. Austin, I think is his first name. But there was more than that. There were more attempts than that. And I keep bringing up the ISIS cell in the Philippines for a reason. The reason, in my opinion, we have to be real here. There's people out there that vehemently hate. Remember when he's campaigning in 2016? You remember Kathy Griffin and all these mentally deranged people? Remember what she did? And they were showing that even on Fox News. I don't even want to go through all this. It's sickening. what these people have been allowed to get away with. And even facilitating and directing an invasion into our country. And with everything that's going on now, right? I'll be honest with you, I don't even think the White House is adequately secured. I don't. It's nothing against the people doing their job. Remember, if you've ever learned about and studied about high security prisons or um, um, military secured sites like tier one type uh, protection. No, let's just think of it in those terms. Look up tier one protection. The president of the United States is the highest executive officer in our country. Highest leader. He's a representative for the people of the United States of America. Now, me personally, I think he's doing a great job. Yeah, could he have done better before in the past? Yes, of course. We all could have done better of the way we put things and that kind of thing. You know, I won't go through the whole 9 yards, but President Trump, in my opinion, was the guy we needed for that job. And that's all. He's who we needed. That type of caliber individual is who we needed. And I tell you what, President Trump worked circles around these people. He worked circles around these people. You know, it's crazy. But anyways, yes, so again, we're being shadow banned. Again, being shadow banned. Tonight's live stream. What's new, right? Okay, Dems, defund DHS, and put POTUS in the kill box. Now, let's put it, Dems, Democrats defund. It wasn't just Democrats. They defunded the Department of Homeland Security. How did they do that? They did it again. They didn't have to go out there and do what Benny Thompson tried to do by writing a bill and getting it passed that take away, strip President Trump's security team. They're doing it covertly. They just didn't fund. They shut down the DHS. Department of Homeland Security, with all the stuff going on in Venezuela and Iran and around the world, the war in Europe going on right now, they defunded Department of Homeland Security. Why do you think they did that? It's just another way to try to put the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, in a kill box by pulling off his security, in my opinion. And listen, I don't care what any law enforcement official said about that attempt early this morning at like 1:30 in the morning. The president wasn't here. That facility has to be guarded as a tier one asset, whether the president of the United States is there or not. Because the capabilities of what people could bring in covertly, I really don't believe that people are being trained now adequately. I don't know what the deal is, but I don't know. If I was in the military and I was on that post, for example, and somebody basically got in, snuck in, then that means right there that the security is it's not sufficient. It's not even sufficient, let alone try to think of all the ways in the far as modern technology goes to basically try to secure Mar-a-Lago, even the White House as far as that goes. Now, of course, there could be some security that they have that I'm unaware of, but as far as I'm looking at it from the outside, I can't see the inside. I can see the outside. We could see like ballrooms and that kind of thing, but we don't know the inner security. I don't know the inner security, but what I've seen from the outside, and I went to Mar-a-Lago 2 days after that criminal raid at Mar-a-Lago to show my support for the president and the first family, Melania Trump, and that. I got some information on our beautiful, classy first lady I'd like to bring up tonight. I don't want to mix it in with that, though. It's going to be a totally different topic, and I'll touch on it far as that's concerned. And I think it's kind of interesting. Maybe it's just a coincidence what I'm noticing, but anyways, I'm going to bring it up, and I think y'all might find that interesting as well. So those that are coming in later in the live stream, please share it, and hopefully this gets. And also, let me remind everyone that comes in later, maybe to watch the show, or whatever, or listen to the show. Please pray for our president, the first family, our country, this administration, our country, our people, and pray for peace. Now, if an organization, if there's been a official delegation of an organization to be state sponsors of terrorism, you cannot trust them. You can't trust them. I understand the pursuit of peace, right? And I'm for peace as much as anybody else out there. But when they've actually made the threats, and those threats are backed up, they're credible threats. As far as ballistic missile type operations go, and maybe even worse. Remember, I talked about the Beirut barracks bombing, remember, for a reason. That goes all the way back to what, the 80s, right? 83, 84, something like that. We lost all those Marines. I think a couple Air Force men died in that attack. Remember, the French barracks got bombed too as well. Remember what type of bomb it was? Remember the Twin Tower bombing, right? The tower bombing. What was that, in the 90s? Remember that? And just imagine. Now, I don't understand this. I don't know there's people that actually are individual worked in the Secret Service. I heard Nino talking about it, the show tonight. Basically, used to work for the Secret Service, I think, for Carter, George H.W. Bush, and I think Gerald Ford. But anyways, he believes there was somebody else than crooks that basically tried to take out our president. So anyways, things are starting to heat up, and not starting, they're already heated up. We got the cartel strike, on that leader. I'm not sure if that was yesterday, day before. Okay, I'm aware of all these things, and like I said, I'm on the outside looking in. I try to report what I thought was a broader criminal conspiracy. They didn't want to even take my information. right? Set up a fraudulent file, made it look like I'm a nutcase, right? So I would be deemed to be uncredible, if that's the word. Don't listen to that guy. There's something wrong with him, right? Don't listen to, oh, we didn't take it because that guy's, you know, lost his marbles. And that's what a lot of people unfortunately believe we are that have faith. One of those crazy David Davidian type people, right? Remember, how many times have individuals went out there and basically discussed just the Ten Commandments? I'm all for because I'm all for having um like you can say statues, I guess. I don't know, statues. I don't really call them a statue. A depiction of the Ten Commandments outside schools or uh, courtrooms or that kind of thing. I'm all for it. What's wrong with it? That's what our laws are based on. Remember, it could be the individuals that are accused word against the accuser, right? You have to have at least two witnesses. Remember the lower court and the higher court? Who set that up? That goes all the way back to Moses' father-in-law, Jethro. Moses is trying to listen to every single case, right? Every plaintiff case, right? You know, and wearing himself out, burning the candles at both ends. And Jethro came up to him and go, hey, listen, there's other capable men out there, and put the strongest capable leaders you have and make them at the higher court, like, right below you, and that's the way our justice system was set up. And most Americans, probably a lot of Americans, even Christians, don't even know that, because a lot of Christians never even read the Old Testament. They just read the New Testament. They go talk to us and, well, you're an Old Testament type guy, aren't you? Well, I'm an old and new. But anyways, yeah. So Benny Thompson. This is official, right? He wrote up a bill, or he sponsored a bill. Whether he wrote it or not is beyond me. To basically take away President Trump's security detail. Well, that's basically what they did. They took part of his detail away before his butler, right? Pennsylvania rally. And I don't know if this is true or not. I heard that CNN didn't go to any of the rallies before that, but they were ready and they were set up, right, to be at that rally. Is that just a coincidence? I don't know. Y'all can decide whether you believe that's a coincidence or not. But I remember seeing video footage of the people running out of that facility where, I don't know if it was an arena where Jill Biden was speaking, but they pulled some of the detail members off of Trump's team and diverted them over to Jill Biden's team. And they got word, and you should have seen, I believe I saw them evacuating that facility they were in, that building. But that was a hardened building. You know, you only got so many entrance points and checkpoints, and you basically do the metal detecting job and that kind of thing. Make sure there's no weapons brought in or whatever. You know, so she was very well protected. Very well protected. What's that list, Ken? Yeah. Oh, you mean Old Testament and New Testament type guy? Yeah. Let me see here. I'm going to try to. This information, in my opinion, is really important. Really important. But anyways, what I'm going about to get to tonight. But yes, okay. If I had not performed perimeter security and actually helping to set up perimeter security, Constantina wire, the whole 9 yards, I won't go into it any further than that. But helped set up checkpoints. Worked at checkpoints. When we're deployed for its combat training exercises goes, and that was overseas and here in the U.S. multiple times. I was deployed, you know, never in a combat theater. But I have, I think about combat readiness medal. So you have to be ready, combat ready for a certain amount of years, I think, or months, whatever. And you get actually a medal for it. So I actually have a medal for being combat ready, to be ready to deploy basically at a moment's notice. I mean, not, you have to basically, when you're recalled and deployed, you have so much time to get to your duty location. I'll just stop there. But I do believe the DEFCON should be raised. And I'm going to basically explain this real quick. The defense readiness condition, basically, um, I can't remember. I think DEFCON Delta is the highest level. DEFCON Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta, and I think it goes up to Delta if I'm not mistaken. But that's classified. We don't know what the DEFCON readiness condition could be. But let me just reveal again the obvious. There's three nations that support Iran that are nuclear power nations: China, Russia, and North Korea. Now, those are three. They are nuclear armed countries which have the capability of uh, making nuclear warheads. Iran already has the ability, the systems, to launch those nuclear warheads, whether they're low yield nuclear warheads or not. They already have the ability. All they have to do is fit the nuclear warhead on those missile systems they already have. And they can do a lot of damage. And this is my opinion. This is RH's opinion. I don't have the intel. I don't have the looking glass. I can't see in right. Okay. I can't see from the multiple mile view either. I don't have that surveillance. But I'm going to let people know that these individuals that we're dealing with, they are trying that they think they're slick. First of all, we know what they brought in. The Dems mainly, they facilitated and directed an invasion into our country against the law, against the supreme law of the land. Our U.S. Constitution, based on Article 4, Section 4. Not only did they facilitate and direct an invasion into our country, they also facilitated and directed a foreign military and terrorist insurgency into our country. I don't care what qualification somebody has. You don't believe that? I could care less at this point right now. My objective, and always was, to try to provide and reveal the weaknesses in the protection of our president and our country. And I'm going to continue to do that, whether anyone likes it or not. I'm going to continue to stay involved to help keep each and every one of us safe. And I don't care what side of the aisle you may be on as far as keeping safe is concerned. Every life is a human being, and we are made in the likeness and image of God and his sons. Remember the 6-day creation? Men and women. So in essence, I'm ordered by Almighty God, if I see something, I got to report it. And this is the only way. The former leadership of the U.S. Secret Service or whatever already put up a file to discredit me, to prevent me from going to reveal some of these things I was trying to reveal directly to the president's team or directly to the president himself. They blocked me from that. I won't go into it any further. Their job was to take the information, whether they liked me or not, whether they thought I was whacked out, because in their mind, that because of the questions they asked me. Do you hear voices? Right? Oh, you're one of those Christian guys. You believe in God, right? You hear voices. God's telling you to do something. See, that's how they do it. That's how they play their stupid games. Because they got pissed off that people can understand, especially the Manila, Philippines thing in the latter part of 2017. Come on now. How many ISIS operative cells do you know, members of those cells, do you know? I don't know any of them, be honest with you, that can speak or write perfect Oxford English. I'm going to take one for the teams, lad, and basically has a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald on his social media. What a coincidence, right? So they set Trump up in a kill box, basically, and it's just a miracle out of divine intervention, in my opinion, that President Trump is still alive to this day. We all saw the head jerk, right, motion. And they're not going to tell everybody about every attempt. And they probably won't even tell the president about it. That's probably even worse, because they don't want to lose their job or be embarrassed, whatever. So you think about it. ISIS operatives that were, or cells, were mobilized into the Philippines to basically take out the president of the Philippines, because he was basically cracking down on trafficking, right? Remember, this is international when we're talking about trafficking. So, yeah, when we're talking about trafficking, there's multiple types of trafficking: drug trafficking, organ trafficking, harvesting trafficking, child trafficking, trafficking probably even with clones as well. Remember, we might have a set of rules here in our country, but what do you think about the non-God fearing, respecting countries around the world? You think they operate by the same set of rules we do? Obviously they don't. We got a lot of people in our country that don't operate on the same set of rules that we do. Those of faith. They think they can make up their morality as they go along. There's a really good movie I'd like people to check out. It's called The Genesis Code, for unbelievers and younger people. You know, but anyways, that's another topic and another night or day as far as live streaming goes. But anyways, yeah, I try to share the information. Their job is, whether they like the individual that's giving them the information, their job is to basically deem whether that information is credible or not. And it's proven, the information I had is proven to be credible. Now, especially after Butler. Okay, especially after the modus of operandi to try to take out our president of the United States covertly by highly compartmentalized groups or cells, and that's international. Let's put this straight now. That is international. Remember the outcry about Soleimani? Remember that? Remember the outcry about the guy in Venezuela? Who do we think these people are working for or getting paid by? They're furious. Let me go back and show even individuals in our own government. They set up their own digital currency. Remember the FTX? And they blocked the information, the donor information. Who are they giving the donations to? They shut down that investigation. Okay, this avatar photograph you're seeing that pops up on the screen now, that's basically, that's before the last government one of the government shutdowns. I can't remember what year it was. But remember Adam Schiff, Pelosi was going to go over that boondoggle to Afghanistan? Do we not actually remember how many or realize how much money laundering was going on during that war for all those years? You know, all those cachet cases with like million dollars in them and all that stuff? I'm not accusing them of doing that. I'm just saying. In a government shutdown, they're going to basically use U.S. government transportation for a boondoggle to go to where? To Afghanistan. Oh, that's one of the safest places in the world, right? And they're going to go to where? I think it's Brussels, right? I can't remember. Wherever it was NATO headquarters. They were going to go to NATO headquarters. What the heck were they doing there? Going to do there? And in my opinion, when you use government and you're a diplomat, you're politicians going on these delegations trips, they don't get searched. They don't go through customs. That's a way to circumvent customs. Okay, where's the other photograph? I shared this multiple times before on this channel. That's probably the reason why they're continuing to shadow ban this channel, throttle this channel back. That pissed off probably a lot of people. Look at that cart right there. That's in right outside Pelosi's office, right? That's the U.S. Air Force, U.S. military shipping cart that you put your baggage on. Look at all those bags. For like a 3 or 4 day boondoggle trip to Afghanistan and to hobnob with NATO, members of NATO. Well, that's where they went. Fact check me, please. Okay, so that's enough with that. I've shared that many times before. Just doing my job, sir. Thank you for your service, right? Golly, unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah, they set up a profile in my own dining room. I set them up for the dining room in my dining room. And they refused to take my information. And that's their job. I called U.S. Secret Service headquarters 2 times in Washington, D.C. to get them to come out there to get the information I had. I waited 2 weeks the first time I called, and I go, I'm still seeing all these signs. They're basically setting up a kill box for President Trump. And let me explain it in a way when I finish talking about this. They set up a file on me. The questions were leading to make it look like I was a nutcase, right? And they even asked me to sign a waiver where they could go interrogate my own private doctor. I said, well, you don't need to do that. I mean, I don't want you to do that to my doctor. So I refused to sign it. Then I told him, I said, well, I'm a veteran. My information basically is out there. So they went in there under the auspice of national security. I'm under an investigation, right? And they took all my medical records. You know how I know that? Because the VA informed me of that. You know, and I've got some weird exchanges with the VA since, like, most retirees, you know, they have VA benefits, right? VA outpatient clinic. And some of the questions I've had since after that, even years after that, is suspect. They had me to stand up by well, I keep saying the David Davidian thing is, right? Stand up next to a picture of a lion on my wall and make me stand in an awkward position to get a picture for my profile. Oh, he's one of those David Davidian type people, right? He believes in God. First two questions they asked me, you know anybody locally that wants to basically take out the president? At that time was President Trump. I go, no, it's not local. It's an organization or an agency in our own government, which is basically international. More other countries are involved in it. The second question asked me if I wanted to do that. I kept my cool. These people were in my own damn dining room. I invited them in my home. I called them 2 times. You know what they did the first time I called them? They started already doing an investigation on me. Right? How they could discredit me. They went around and interrogated my family members. They interrogated my neighbors. I just moved into that home. Interrogating my neighbors. Okay, let's go back to the MO I was talking about earlier. They did the exact same thing to President Kennedy. Remember the day before he got to Dallas, Texas on November 22nd of 1963? One of the richest men in the world had these posters printed out with Kennedy's face on it, wanted for treason. Why? Because he was working with Khrushchev. Remember? Khrushchev, he had a back channel communication with Khrushchev to stop a possible nuclear holocaust. Nikita Khrushchev. By the way, the 30-year anniversary of Nikita Khrushchev's death, whether it is just a coincidence or not, maybe someone should ask Bill Ayers, was September 11, 2001. Remember, September 11, 2001, before that date, the former leader of a domestic terrorist organization that bombed buildings, government buildings, he had planned to have a manifesto to be released, the Communist Manifesto to be released in the New York Times and be at the newspaper stands at 0:30 before the first plane hit the tower and whatever hit the Pentagon. What did they do to President Trump? Well, John Brennan basically, remember the agency? Remember John Brennan? Basically said that Trump was a Russian agent. There's still, I heard Shannon Breon today on Fox News. I think it was Shannon Breon. She basically brings up the talking points of the left, saying basically the same thing, that Trump is working with Vladimir Putin against Ukraine. Making it sound like that war's all Trump's fault. You can't make this stupidity up. She's reading Mockingbird Media talking scripts. Shannon Breon, I think is her name. It was sickening. So That's basically what Intel, and as far as don't blame me, blame Snowden, because he's the one that basically released the information about Echelon. And think about Echelon 17. Think about PSYOPs operations. Well, all you got to do is, it's just a movie. All you got to do is kick back and watch the movie, right? I don't know if y'all have ever read any of the stuff from the dark web, but it's pretty sickening. They have their anons too. They were putting out some disgusting stuff about Trump before the Epstein files really got hot, right? Really sick accusations. That's where that sewage comes from. The dark web. Who do we think controls it? That's where the wrap-up smears come from. Partially. And there's many people out there that are obliged to basically share that garbage online, on their podcast or their live streams, whatever, and get paid handsomely for it. Sometimes all they got to do is say one or two sentences and then continue on the path. Oh, I'm a MAGA person, right? I'm a Make America Great person. I'm an American First person. Marjorie Taylor Greene really flipped, didn't she? She really flipped to the other side. I wonder how many people got her to step down as a Congress lady. What do you think that helped our country? Was she paid to step down, is my question. To basically keep that majority, that House majority, very slim, or basically rigging Congress. Remember all the people that actually resigned, though? I don't know if as many Dems have resigned because they surround the wagons around their own, no matter how bad they are. Well, yeah, refuse to take the information. They set up Trump just like they did Kennedy. They set him up. They basically took away his protection where it was insufficient. They took away enough of his protection to basically allow him to go into these kill boxes. Remember Cheadle. Oh, look how they're protecting that woman. She said she never even reviewed a site security plan. Well, she's inept, right? That's what they're going to say. Do we seriously believe she's that stupid? No, she was handpicked because she was on either Joe Biden's protective team or Joe Biden. So they can protect her, right? They'll protect her. What do you think if it was a military person? Say he was securing a ICBM silo or something like that. And didn't follow the proper security protocols and allowed a breach. Well, that roof was too sloped. Oh, I never reviewed a site security plan. Okay, now For those that think it's ridiculous, oh, they would never do that, RH. Come on now, RH. They've already done it. Remember Ruth? They didn't do a perimeter security check. Anybody with a half a brain operating brain cell could see that you have to go around the perimeter before you allow your protectee to get on that golf course. I didn't even see in Butler, I didn't even see, or I don't know. They may have done it before. Did they have any men posted or rovers posted in that tree line? That tree couldn't see the tree for the trees, right? Couldn't see the tree for the trees. Remember, they set up a hunter. What do you call that? Dang, I can't remember. Right near the airport in Palm Beach, right? They set up a hunting nest up in a tree. And I said, going back to Butler, right? You can't see the tree for the trees. There's a lot of us believe there could have been another shooter out there. We don't know. How do they know? How did they know there wasn't? If they never even was roving that area, they didn't even have a rover. That tree line wasn't that far, much further than the American Research Glass Company, whatever building. That was so sloped. Oh, Cheadle. Oh, it was sloped. That's the reason why we didn't put people on that building, right? Well, then what you have to do is you have to have somebody to make sure that nobody gets on top of the damn building, right? And when that guy showed up with a rangefinder, they should have basically took him in for questioning. Okay, I don't want to have to get into all the ridiculous stuff that they allowed happen. You know, like I said, if that was a military operation and that facility, like a tier 1 facility, was breached based on people not following proper protocol, oh, those that are willing to play cards with the devil, whether it's Cheadle or not, I don't know. I mean, she just might not have been that adequate. I mean, what do you call it? She just wasn't proficient in her job. But they protected her. Maybe she knows some things as far as being on Joe Biden and Joe Biden's detail that they picked her. Because I'm sure she's under an NDA, right? Of things going on, like inappropriate, like JB, and I'm not talking about John Brennan. You know, being inappropriate around that swimming pool with Cheadle around. I don't know. Things still are look how slow they move, right? They're going to ensure there's any type of wrongdoing going on. Oh, it's past the statute of limitations. It's past the statute of limitations. Yeah. So they refused to take any information I had, basically set up a false profile on me, make it look like I was a nutcase. so they can continue to monitor my communications to see what I know. Why do you think they raided Mar-a-Lago? It's not because Trump did anything wrong. That was a criminal operation. Basically, they set up a lethal force engagement. That's what they set up. President Trump wasn't there either. Now, we don't really know at 1:30 in the morning if President Trump really was in Mar-a-Lago. Maybe they said he was going to Mar-a-Lago. But I guess we won't know now because that 21-year-old guy's gone, right? He's dead. Oh, don't worry. President wasn't there that day. Well, there was loss of life there, and there was a breach of security. So we are worrying. And that Palm Beach police chief should be worrying too as well. You know, that's not a very, very kind of like a conservative type part of Florida. I know because I was there 2 days after that criminal raid on Mar-a-Lago, where they set up if Trump was going to be there, they set up like a kill box. Now they also might have set it up where, see, Trump could have legal representation and that could have blocked it. So that might have been a reason why. But they're going to set up an invade. Think about it. They they took control of the cameras. They shut the cameras off. They told the people there going there not to wear any identifying like jackets, like windbreakers or shirts with FBI or political action group, CIA guys, or whatever, working for Brennan or whoever they're working for, or working for, the former King George empire, that kind of thing. So let's see here. Yeah, didn't know who they were, right? They're going into Mar-a-Lago, and they were told to wear like generic type t-shirts, like polo shirts or golf shirts or whatever, and to conceal their weapons. So they brought in all these boxes, right? So what did they plant at Mar-a-Lago? What did they plant at a storage room that was basically cleared by the FBI? They said, oh, well, it's okay. We just recommend you put on another lock that we can get into whenever we raid, I guess, Mar-a-Lago. Because President Trump was cooperating. He had no reason not to cooperate because he hadn't done anything wrong. That was part of the coup to overthrow our president. Remember? And they blocked President Trump's offer of 10 or higher thousand National Guard troops to secure the Capitol building because they set up a phony insurrection. See, if they got basically approved Pelosi's Sergeant of Arms or Bowser, Marion Bowser, the mayor, I call it Moscow, Marion Bowser, right? She approved of National Guard being like unarmed traffic cops, right? Not to secure. She had the intel. They knew how many people was going to be there that day, or a very close estimate. Remember General Milley's orders to the other chiefs, the other Joint Chiefs? If basically report to him if Donald Trump basically orders any boots on the ground, U.S. troops on the ground in America, report to him first, and he'll deem whether they are basically, it's a constitutional order or not. You think these people care about the Constitution? Especially when they're going after people they don't like? How many lives have they destroyed? God only knows. How many innocent men, women, and children are still in prison for something they never even did, that were set up? Oh, he's too crazy. He's basically he's delusional. He's hallucinating. Well, you know, so let's just all pray to our Heavenly Father that continues to invoke divine intervention for the safety of our country, the safety for our own planet. Remember, we all share the same planet together. And these nutcases, they don't care. So, you know, I'm just thinking you can't trust anything that those terrorists over there have to say regarding anything. So they remember their side. They facilitated and directed an invasion into our country that has cost the lives of hundreds of thousands of American citizens. I don't care if your policy, you let it happen or not. There's a guy running for he's running for governorship, sheriff in California. He says he wants to basically give all these people amnesty that they brought in, rigging the elections, right? Rigging the election. That's what they're trying to do. It's obvious. Save American Act, right? They don't want to vote for that because they don't want free and fair elections. They want they want their selections. They don't want free and fair. They don't want the American people to basically have a voice in our elections. They want us to lose confidence in our elections, not to even go out there and partake in our civic duty every time that rolls around, right? They want us to all stay at home. They want to make it feel so dangerous out there. Oh, there's an epidemic out there now. You know, you can't go out there without this, without there, without that. Oh, we're going to have to suspend them, whatever. Oh, no, we can't do it now. These people are so corrupt. And the problem is they're not held accountable. Could you imagine if that were Republicans doing that? Every single one of them would have to resign. If they didn't resign, they would be. Listen, you can arrest an official, a government official, can put out a warrant for their arrest if they broke the law and you got the evidence. There's a lot of grand juries going on, right? They call them secret grand juries. I heard they're not secret. I don't know. How many of those were rigged? Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna There's been other people have mentioned this before, but I've already said this before. Remember who helped pass the Obamacare, the so-called Affordable Care Act? You know who basically gave the information to Barack Obama to basically get the Affordable Care Act passed and the mandate? Remember? He basically said, call it a tax. Now, that's what Roberts just did again with the tariffs. I think they've exposed themselves now. You know, the tariffs are implemented for national security and our economy. Our economy is national security. Think about it. If we don't have the tariff money and we continue on, remember China, for example, and they know it too. Trump even talks about it. They know it. They know they were ripping us off, right? Because we had stupid people. He said stupid people in charge. That's the God's honest truth, whether we like that statement or not. A $500 billion deficit pretty much every year or whatever with China. Trade deficit. Remember what it was doing to our agriculture, our farmers? Remember how they were basically bringing in all that what do you call it? Low grade steel and dropping it off in our country, putting our steel business, steel industry factories out of business. Remember that? Remember the guy said, I want to kiss you, President Trump? And he goes, no, thank you. You know, I can understand why. Even if he didn't have Melania, you know, hey, dude, you know, you get kind of close here. You're kind of like getting in my airspace, you know what I mean? So, yeah, when I first started these live streams, I was kind of loud, right? And that's the reason, because they're suppressing my information. They're blocking my information. You know, it's kind of unbelievable. But anyways, I'm not talking about the people that go out there that risk their lives every day for us, and you know they do their job. They don't basically go around protocols and have what do you call it, shortcuts that basically provide security breaches and puts the protectees in a kill box. Now, I'm not talking about those guys. The ones that don't do that are the ones I'm talking about. They're out there risking their lives every day and doing their job with the utmost proficiency. They wasn't hired because of their skin tint or lack thereof or whatever, or because of their orientation, whatever orientation, they're on, whatever, because they were proficient, more than proficient, to do their jobs properly, right? And those people, they should be proud. I can only imagine what you're up against. Remember, they infiltrated these people into our government and all three branches of government: judicial, executive, and legislative. I mean, some of these people, they say I'm not qualified to basically run for office because I don't have a bachelor's degree or do certain jobs. Man, I don't know. I think that, in my opinion, if you have the IQ and you're proficient enough to do the job, you should be able to get a waiver if that's what's required. Even if you have training in professional military education, as far as communications and that kind of thing, they should waive that We can give briefings and that kind of thing. We have a staff, we have a whole team. We got computers, desktops, you know what I mean? Could you imagine how great this live stream would be if I had like a studio? Have graphic designers, all kinds of stuff like that, producers, artists, you name it. Man, I tell you what, we could have one of the best live streams on the planet. Because I have a good imagination. And I know things what people like because I know what I like. And I'm kind of like an average guy. I like a lot of things most other people like. But anyways, so yeah, I was going to get to something real quick. Now, this could be comms. Now, remember I talked about if you go research sterling silver, go to Wikipedia, sterling silver, right? And go down to the colonial history and go down to Paul Revere. Remember, I do believe this is the 250th year anniversary of the golden age of American silver. And there's two clues. That could be a coincidence. This is basically going to be the goal of this current president is basically to restore our sovereignty, not only as a nation, but also as our economy, our economic sovereignty. I really believe, and I do believe there are kind of like comms out there that lead us into that right direction. Now, I'm going to bring up a couple of comms here in the avatar as far as photographs are concerned. Okay? Okay. Now, I'm going to put this up there first. Now, this is at Money Metals Exchange online. You can buy one of those Paul Revere rounds. Okay. Now, when you go to sterling silver and you go to the basically colonial history period of that article, look for that quote when they're talking about Paul Revere was a silversmith. Now go in and read that article, whatever. Sterling silver. A sterling silver is 925. Remember that, and you have to have 0.999 to basically make like sterling silver. Now, I'll give people an example. The Vince Lombardi Trophy for the victors, I think it was, the Seattle Seahawks one, right? That Vince Lombardi Trophy, the team trophy, is made of 7 pounds of sterling silver because they can't use 999 because 925, which they make out of 999, it took them like 4 months to make that trophy, right? So it's more malleable. You can form objects better with 925, as far as my opinion. So that avatar photograph now is what's minted from a U.S. mint in the United States of America, basically of Paul Revere, and I think it's 1776 to 2026, right? 250th year. I can't zoom in on it, but I think that's what the intent was for that. So anyways, remember that, and that's the silver round, but the silver round is not 925, it's 0.999. So if you want one, get over to you can order one online. If you orders over $200, you can basically get Tell them Area 111 sent you, by the way, and you might get a free round. But anyways, a 999, half an ounce. But anyways, that's Paul Revere. Now we're talking about the American Golden Age of Silver, which is in that article under sterling silver and the colonial history. Now we're talking about restoring our economic sovereignty from that former empire, right? And basically restoring our territorial sovereignty, our 50 states and our territories, restoring our sovereignty on them as well. Now, let me go. Okay, now I'm going to transition to what also might be a coincidence. Let me see here real quick. Okay, they're making me resize this, so stand by. Pardon me for that. I'm having technical difficulties here, which is ridiculous. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to size this photograph, and it's giving me a hard time here. So bear with me. Testing 1, 2. Okay. Testing 1, 2. Let me check the volume real quick, make sure we're still live. Y'all really want to see this. And pardon me for the struggle here, trying to get this avatar resized so it'll basically. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Let me do this. Studio, go back into studio, and it's not cooperating. Oh, I got it. Finally. Thank you for those that are still here. The one person that's still here, probably Ken. Okay, look at that photograph. Now that avatar, if you could zoom in on, that was the first lady. Remember we're talking about the 250th birthday of the United States of America. We're talking about the golden age of American silver, which is called the poor man's gold, right? And all the information is coming to light about how they suppress silver. Now, this photograph here is at on New Year's Eve for the New Year's Eve party, and that's Melania Trump wearing a silver gown. Now there's a special name for it. I was going to look it up today, but I forgot it. Not satire, sature, something like that. Silver sature gown. Somebody can look that up. I can't. The way it's set up here, I could lose the live stream if I go to another application while this is running. Okay, so now this was definitely a coincidence for those that been talking about silver and the theory that it has a lot of ground to go. In my opinion, silver should be valued a ratio of 5 to 1. Means there's it's for five basically 999 silver bars or silver would be worth 1 ounce of gold. I do believe that the gold is overvalued based on the industrial needs of silver. And I do believe a lot of people have been talking about this, and they're probably even in the inner circles of President Trump. I was about to say President Reagan. But anyways, yeah, I'm sure they're all talking about it. They hear some of them, they're in touch with what's going on with us, with Americans, and they're in touch with, the middle class and how the middle class has been kind of like left behind and ripped off, and all the theft and corruption, fraud, in our government. And a lot of that President Trump has basically revealed, especially with Doge and Elon Musk. But look at that dress, a beautiful dress. Now, maybe the next live stream I'll do that. Now, so they just had the governor's dinner, right? Now, if that's a coincidence, right? That's not a hey, we're wearing silver. At least Melania Trump is. And remember, the movie Melania just came out, right? Documentary. So I got to find out where I could get a copy of that. I definitely want to watch that. I'll be on my top list. I'm a movie buff and I love movies, and some of y'all might have figured that out over some of the things I kind of like talk about. Far as I believe they've revealed in movies before it actually happened or whatever. But anyways, yes, check out that beautiful gown. I mean, that's precious, and that's President Trump walking into the, I guess the New Year's Eve party with Melania Trump on his side, to his left, right? Okay, so, all right, that's silver, definitely silver. And what does silver do? One of the attributes of silver is the best reflective metal out there. I think there's an conduit of electricity, best conductor of electricity. And basically, silver is used for healing wounds. I won't go in through all the needs for silver, like the solar panels, the computers, the AI data centers, and all that stuff that computers need for that. National defense needs for silver, and there's not a replacement for it. They have to totally retool the industry, and basically the way they're using silver now is in such small amounts. They basically, like, for example, mirrors, because silver is the most reflective metal out there, right? And telescopes and chips, all kinds of stuff. Remember, there's a higher melting point than plastic as far as circuit boards are concerned, or wherever they're made of, silicone, whatever they're made of. Okay, so keep that photograph in mind. avatar photograph, and I'm going to switch that one out for another one. Remember, silver. Are these comms or just a coincidence? Now, this is not a very good picture of Melania. I don't like it, but it's the best I could. You know, you have to be careful with copyrights. And this is directly from the White House. Now, this is Melania Trump a couple days ago. I think it was a couple days ago, day ago, whatever, couple days ago. That's Melania Trump and President Trump coming into the governor's dinner at the White House. Now look at her slacks. And if you see the video, bring up the video. This is it. You can bring up this video at the White House. Look at her silver slacks. Dress pants. They are beautiful. They look baggy like they're like aluminum foil, but I'm pretty sure that's silver, at least like silver dust. And you can see the reflection of that silver. It's really okay. Here, let me share it now. Okay, I'm going to share another photograph. I don't like that photograph, but it was kind of an awkward picture because the photograph where they were taking a portrait photograph, right, for the White House, and it, you know, you have to narrow in, and when they were walking in, you couldn't really see that well what she was wearing as far as her pants were, right? But they look like kind of like it's a little bit different than her silver like party gown for the New Year's Eve party. Well, I be honest with you, I like the New Year's Eve party one better than this one, but you know, it was really really beautiful. I'm so proud of our president, first lady, and the first family, and our administration. For the most part, there's some things I think could be going on, like with DOJ. Listen, if the left was in charge and we had done what they had done, people on our side, I'm not saying myself, right? If people on our side had done what they have done, man, we had already been in prison a long time ago. We'd have been in prison the first day. If Trump lost, we'd already be in prison already. They're talking about Susan Rice just came out. My God, what she had to say. That woman is delusional. She's dangerous. She's basically calling for weaponization after all they did to Trump and these lies this lady's going out there to tell. I mean, it's unbelievable. Uh, Let me see here. I'm going to change out that photograph. See if there's another one. No, it's the same. I resized that photograph, so I'm going to have to stick with the same photograph. Okay, that's the governor's dinner photograph there that I just shared. And I want to go back and share the other one. So if I had a lot of people here, I'd have a vote on which outfit that Melania Trump has looks the best. Both of them look great to me. It's just the angle of that. I need to learn a little bit more about it. So are those comms for silver, backing silver? I don't know. Could be, might not be. Okay, I'm going to switch back to the gown. I guess you call it a gown, right? New Year's Eve gown. Now tell me that doesn't look good. Talk about her gown. Now, of course, as far as the New Year's Eve was done, party was done in Mar-a-Lago, I'm pretty sure. So I would like to be basically, maybe I can call the White House and ask tomorrow if they'll answer the phone, even talk to me, whatever. I'm sure they wouldn't want those that are in the deep state wouldn't want me, or shadow government wouldn't want me to come basically have communications with President Trump. I don't care what anybody thinks about me trying to reveal what they're up to. Uh, I know I'm doing the right thing. So that's all that matters. As long as I'm doing right by God and not lying, false witness against others, you know, that would be an entirely different story, but I'm not. Okay, so with that said, I hope this helps. And remember, there are more of us than there are them. There's 1/3 of the angels that were fallen that were rebellious towards God and basically joined in Satan's rebellion that were cast out of heaven. Remember that. As far as our faith goes, there are more of us in our country than there are of them. No matter what they say, whatever they try to allude to. They even got their trick photography and all that stuff. I won't go into that. Y'all know that as well as I do. So, anyways, that's all I have for tonight's live stream. They need to basically do a. So, yeah, one thing I want to clarify. By the government shutdown, they defunded the Department of Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security oversees the U.S. Secret Service. That's what I'm talking about. They're trying to set up a way, plural ways, where they can set up Trump in a kill box. That's what they've already done. They're doing it right now. We have to wake up. We have to basically expose this. And we have to pray to God. More importantly, I believe in prayer 100%. We need to pray to God that he puts a hedge of protection around our president, Melania Trump, everyone in his administration, our country, our citizens, all our men, women, and children, and stop these evil terrorists from basically doing any more attacks. I hope they are revealed and brought to justice so they cannot do their horrible deeds again. So I believe in private prayer and I do believe in the power of prayer. So, anyways, I'm just asking for y'all's prayers for our country, for our president, for the first lady, first family, our people. Stop these wars, right? Stop these wars. But, you know, you can't trust murderers. That's it. And God already tells us what to do with murderers, right? That's already back in Genesis chapter 9. right? Go back and listen to what God commanded Noah, his wife, and his 3 sons and their wives what to do when it comes to a murderer. That's in Genesis chapter 9. Soon as that ark came to rest, basically, after that, and they were safely out of the ark, God commanded them what to do with the murderer. That's also in Numbers, I think it might be chapter 35, verse 30. What to do with murderers. It's like in the last chapter of Numbers. What to do with the murderers. And remember, watch men on the wall, watch women on the wall, even watch children on the wall. You see the sword coming, sound the alarm. Rather be a false alarm or not a false alarm because it wasn't done intentionally. Rather it be a false alarm than actually happening or happen, right? Okay, so with that said, good morning, good day, good evening. This concludes live stream. God bless. And remember, in God we trust. Everyone else trust but verify. Good night.